Spectrovision Radio.
Do you freak out? Wastoids TV from Spectrovision Radio is a late-night collage channel featuring forgotten music history, microdose music documentaries, and fly-on-the-wall backstage interviews.
I get depressed if I don't create.
Discover your next favorite band and go underground with the internet's favorite pop cult. Wastoids TV is now playing via Spectrovision Radio Network.
Spectrovision Radio.
Telemetry and launch condition.
Well, some other observers.
Hey, it's late night.
It's late night on the astral plane, where it's never too late. With your host, Ryan Singer.
It's more fun to believe.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Late Night on the Astral Plane. This is our debut Voyage. So this is our, other people might call them episodes. We're calling them voyages here at this show. I am very excited because I've got a many-time guest on the old program, me and Paranormal U, which, basically this is kind of just the new iteration of that show. I've got Dash Kwiatkowski here, performer, comedian, musician, paranormal investigator, researcher extraordinaire, one of the creators of Liminal. We are going to get into some exciting news about the show Liminal. And if you listen to this show, or if you listen to the old show in the past, you would be familiar with this. Really, really awesome. And then even in the second episode, there's, one of the, favorite people from one of the favorite shows of all time. I don't know how much details we can get into here. So Dash, thank you for joining me on the debut.
Thank you for having me.
This is actually the second voyage.
Okay.
But you're my first guest.
I'm honored. I'm very excited to be on this debut voyage. I love the idea of voyages. I like because it gives you a whole range of things to call other sort of your standard podcast stuff. We can think about ways to make them more sort of nautical or space or however, whatever kind of voyage. I love it. It's very good. I was actually thinking before we started, I was thinking about just like how just sort of integral you, my sweet friend, have been just sort of in me and my magic journey and my paranormal journey and everything that I've been on. And so it's just very happy, always happy to talk to you, recorded or otherwise. Always happy to come on your show, always happy. And also, this is going to be the first time I talk about some of the cool show information, some of the cool updates. This is going to be the debut of that information. So I
breaking
think
news here. We've got
that's
breaking
fun
news.
and cool as
love.
well.
Well, we just as a brief history for people who might be new to this show, new to us, I think we first met at the comedy festival, stand-up comedy festival. So we have a shared love of all things silly, ridiculous, and then a fun field trip at a comedy festival to a crystal shop where I bought my first ever tarot deck.
Amazing.
The Lost Tarot of Nostradamus, which I still use to this day, even though I still don't even really know which, because they made up their own suits.
I see. I love that.
It's like spheres and suns and stars. So I'm still not even sure which ones they correlate to in the traditional like Rider-Waite tarot, but nonetheless, and we, you and I both, I think, have been just getting sucked further and further into the woo-woo wild one life. Since we first met, and it's been exciting, and I think we've been integral in each other's journeys. I can't say enough how fun it is to have the worlds cross over between comedy and paranormal. So to me, it's, we talk about comfort and community a lot. And to me, that is like, that's the Venn diagram. It's the middle, and that's the sweet spot for me.
And I think so much of, I think there is such a reason, and getting into sort of the thesis of the show, of my show, just this idea of the margins, right? The margins, talking about liminality, talking about things that exist sort of on the margins of society. I've said a lot of times, stand-up comedy is one of the true remaining carny cultures in the country, just in terms of it's just its own world. It has its own rules, for better or worse sometimes, but it just sort of operates as its own thing, sort of on the sidelines of contemporary society, but in such an engaging way, right? Where people who are not part of this marginal subculture will still come to the comedy club. They watch the show. They sort of, people who are engaged in a more traditional sort of manner of existing. That's still, it's sort of stand up, I feel like, operates as such a bridge between this interesting weird sideshow act of reality and people who are more working a 9 to 5 or whatever, who want to engage in it or see it. And I think that's makes a lot of sense to me that I don't know, that we would find this very, very sweet para-weird connection whilst pursuing stand-up. I have not done stand-up on a stage for a couple of years now. I call it being retired. And if people ask me to perform, I do. But I haven't, I think the last show I did was with Brian Posehn. We were out, there's a venue out here that closed down. And they're reopening it under new owners, but I used to know the manager, and so every now and then, if someone would forget to book an opener, they would reach out to be like, "Oh, hey, like this person doesn't have an opener. Do you want to come through?" And so I went. And I got to work with Brian Posehn, which was delightful, and we had a whole conversation before the show where I was like, "Hey, like, it's just you and me. Let me know what you want. Also, like, I will tell you." I remember, I have so many memories of being a kid on the couch watching Comedy Central. I was like, this Brian Posehn guy is funny as hell. And I was like, totally cool. And then at the end, I was like, also, I'm going to end my set. I'm going to say a bunch of stuff about Palestine. Just want to. And he was like, yep, totally. And I was like, great. This is a cool. So for me, my current last hurrah in stand up was a very sweet one. Uh, but we'll see. You never know what the future holds.
Yeah, and I'm doing some. Well, I guess by the time this comes out, it'll have been in the past, but some paranormal storytelling shows with Karen Rontowski. And I think that we're kind of doing this dry run here to see what's going on. But I think she and I both envision like a bigger thing, with maybe touring and doing some more shows in different cities. That sounds like it's right up your alley as well. So who knows what the future holds? I'm sure it's going to be mysterious and delightful nonetheless. I love what you've said about the stand-up being kind of like on the fringes of contemporary society. I was thinking about this a lot last night, that the paranormal is the exact same way. When you look through some of the greatest literature, even the religions of the world that a lot of people believe in or subscribe to, in culture in general, paranormal is deeply embedded, and it's at the heart of most of the greatest stuff. And whether it's novels, poetry, movies, TV, whatever you want, just fun storytelling, it's laughter and weird. That's what sucks people in, right? And I mean, I don't know how it wouldn't. For anyone, actually, everyone I know gets sucked in by a good laugh or a really weird story. And with Liminal, what you've done is you're combining, you're really diving deep into like that fringe, but basically at the heart of it, what it's showing us is, this is just one guy's opinion, that it doesn't matter how different all of us are.
Absolutely.
That at the heart of the matter, there's mystery and there's whimsy and there's wonder, and that unites all of us. And it is really, really cool to finally be seeing more representation in the search for such things, right?
And I think so much of it, and this is true for the para-weird as much as it is for stand-up comedy. as much as it is for so many things. But I think it's, as I say, I grew up watching all sorts of ghost shows on TV, and I at very very infrequently would I ever feel like represented by the people that I would see on, and I think there's this sort of this tightrope trap that you have to walk where when I'm saying like I want to make a show that makes people feel represented, I'm not saying that you need to be a mixed race Asian non-binary trans person who would probably be in better shape if I didn't eat quite so much fast food when I was out shooting episodes to feel represented, right? But I think it's just this idea of not just trying to represent people specifically that share the identity groups that I share, although I'm very happy to help people, who are the identity groups that I share feel represented. But I think this idea, like you were just saying, of like, it doesn't, whatever the specifics are, this idea that anybody can go out and do it. And I say this all the time about magic, which is just like magic and strangeness and all of this is, I truly, truly believe whatever you are, whatever your experience is, if you are reaching out, it reaches back. It reaches, whatever your history, whatever your background, like if you are genuinely interested in finding something, like something will find you as well. And I think that's just what's so cool about it, of, showing people that you don't have to be, I would bet the house that I've made this exact joke on your podcast at least twice. But just this idea that you do not have to look like a Three Doors Down cover band to reach out to the paranormal. You do not require cargo shorts to go out and try to talk to the strange and the unseen. I think, and that's no shade to cargo shorts. Some of the people I love dearly wear cargo. I was literally just on a sweet little weekend cabin trip with a partner of mine up in Vermont. Very nice. We did a hike that kicked my ass so hard. It's 2.5 miles, like basically straight up, like up a mountain. Ooh, 2.5 miles I could do about at a 45-degree angle. That's rough. It's rough. It was hard. Anyway, they bought a pair of cargo shorts at the thrift store. So again, I'm not slandering cargo shorts generally.
We love
what
pockets
I am
here. We love pockets.
Hey, pockets. Where are you gonna put the SB7? Where are you gonna put it if not a pocket? And I would love to. Sorry, I'm listener. If this is your first episode featuring me, welcome to my brain and how it works. But what I was going to say is,
well, I was going to say I expect nothing less.
Yes. I still like the SB7. I know they got some new ones out, and what do you are we? Hey, I'm not goofing on a potential sponsorship for the show if I say I still prefer the SB7 than any of the new stuff.
No, you're not at all. And no, right. I've got a device that was like I got like a booster and a thing that was given to me through it like removed some of the noise as like an external third party device from the SB7, and so I still rock that. I was just rocking it, I think 2 weeks ago at a location. So
I love that it's handheld. The newer ones are bigger, and I like to go the whole. There's something for me. Whoever's in the box, whoever's doing the session, it feels right to be holding it, for them to be holding it. I just like, I don't know. I can't explain it, but it feels right.
You feel like there's a deeper connection maybe, or a better, a better signal.
If you're the conduit to whatever, like holding it in your hand, that sort of that tangible feel feels clutch to me. I don't know how to explain it.
That does feel clutch. I've never considered this. This is. Now I'm thinking. Now I'm cycling through every time I've just put an SB7 or something on like a table and just sat there and stared at it and been like, "Why won't you speak?" Wow, that is really cool. I'd be interested to do long-term comparisons with this.
I would love that.
And to see, God, I mean, if I can just win the Powerball, we can do all of these things and not have to worry about rent ever again. I don't know. I think like when it comes to like kind of getting back to what we were talking about, it's, I remember being a little kid and, just sitting on the ground, leaning up against the couch at like a family thing late night when everybody's playing poker and, a couple of people are on the couch. My aunt's watching like late night TV. And it was easy for young Ryan Singer to envision himself on that television doing stand-up comedy when they would bring out a comedian, because they looked like my uncles. They looked like my dad. They looked like what I thought I might look like later.
Totally.
And I think what this does is when all the people who are supposed to be having opportunities get opportunities, what it happens is it compounds, and it's like a wildfire, right? And everything becomes better and everything becomes more. And with that, you have everything that comes with things multiplying, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you look around stand up, the landscape today, and it is, in some ways it's total chaos, right?
Totally.
With with some of the things that are happening, and the importance that certain voices have risen to, which is it's confounding that so many people are looking to comedians as the bellwether of how they should be living their lives, or important decisions they should be making, which has always kind of confounded me a little bit. But I just saw a clip of George Carlin audio placed underneath Splinter, the rat from Turtles, like a live show of him like performing at a live show, but with Carlin audio underneath. And I was just like, this encapsulates everything that is the world right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think, I'll say I think that I look around stand-up comedy, I look at the people that I still know, and I see, there's a lot of people who I think doing cool and interesting things. It's honestly, it's yet another comparison to the paranormal. One of the things to me that I like about it is there is no wrong way to do the art, right? And that's one of the cool things about paranormal stuff is like, I tell you, I'm always looking for like, what's something new that I can try that I haven't done yet? What's something new, especially in the context of making a show? What's something I can do that's going to feel novel and fun, both for me and for someone at home watching? Because I'm not doing anything that's where I'm not like, I'm trying to have a good time. I'm trying to have a good time whatever I'm doing. We all, for those of us with day jobs, of which I am, there's so much time we spend not having a good time. I'm trying to have a good time on the stuff I'm doing on purpose. I would love to have a good time. That sounds great to me. That sounds cool. I think that's ideal. And so I think, stand up, there's no wrong way to do it. I've seen people get up and do stand up in a way that I'm like, I never would have thought to do this combination of things, and it rocks and it's cool. And I've seen ones where I'm like, that sucked. I'm not going to say that to the person or to anyone else here, but I'm thinking it because, we're all critics all the time or whatever. But I love that there's no wrong way to do it. Same thing with paranormal. You get people who are just like, I want to do this full science based. I want to like measure all these things. You get people who are like, I'm just kind of out here doing it with vibes. There's no wrong way to do it. And I think that I really love that. I love that about both of these art forms. I had a point that I was going to make, and it has flown into the sun.
Well, I love this idea. Well, I do love the idea that there's no rules, right? And I definitely subscribe to that, and especially with the paranormal as well. And
I remember what I was going to say. Much like the paranormal, though, I feel like a lot of people have figured out how to sort of. I look at stand up. I look at the landscape of stand up comedy, and I think that in terms of the people making the art, it's beautiful and it's cool. And in terms of the people who figured out that they could make a quick buck by just regurgitating right-wing talking points on a podcast or whatever, and I'm like, this doesn't have to be. This is not art. This is not because. And I think that's the thing about it is like, I think if I saw someone trying to make weird, bigoted, conservative remarks, but they at least tried to write it into a joke, I would be like, all right, well, at least you're trying to express yourself with your art, and that would be a different thing versus, and you get this in music too, with your like outlaw country or whatever, and it's like every song someone is talking about a small town or being in a small town or coming from a small town, and it's like, you're all doing the same thing, man. You're all doing the same thing. Like, how is, and not even from and this is not even from a political stand, obviously politically repugnant, opinion-wise, bad, terrible. But just from the idea of art, where it's like, do you feel what is the word? Do you feel satisfied, gratified? Are you feeling gratified by the art you're producing if you're doing a paint by numbers version of a thing that 2,000 other people are doing. I don't know. I can't imagine it feels great, but
if you are, I guess the next question would be, okay, well, what was your end goal? Because the end goal wasn't to create art.
No, it was to get some money in the pocket, which we're all out here, and there's cool ways to do that, and there's evil ways to do it. There's a thing earlier we were talking about that I was thinking about this tightrope. I can't remember what, just the idea of like, we're all doing our best. And I've been really liking this metaphor of walking a tightrope. And I think that if you're trying to live honestly, it's always going to feel a little bit like a tightrope. And that's okay. I think that that's good because the world is the way that it is. So, you look at people right now, we are in the midst of an ongoing genocide that has been taking part for the better part of 75 years, and there's this question, like, what are we doing? What is each of us doing to make it better? And I look at myself and I say, not enough, right? I'm not doing enough. No one's doing enough. But then I say, there's a version of me existing right now where I dedicate my entire life to just this one thing. And I know if I did that, I would burn myself out and I would not be able to help anybody do anything, right? And so it's this tightrope of like, I know I'm not doing enough. I know I could be doing more. And also I know that I have a limit and I can do what I can. And so, you find cool things. I don't know if the listeners at home are familiar with the Boycat app. Boycat, very cool app. You can scan a barcode before you buy something, and it can tell you, oh, this product is participating in the genocide in Palestine, or this product is using slave labor from the Dominican Republic, or sort of all over the place. A lot of really cool stuff on this app. And that's a little thing, but I have been thinking a lot about this, like this tightrope that we walk or that we have to walk, I think, if we're trying to sort of exist in a way that is honest with ourselves, of saying like, I want to do more. And I'm not going to like burn myself out and make myself not able to do anything. And that connected to something we said earlier, and I'm trying to remember that now too, and I'm struggling with it.
Well, I think we have to take a quick commercial break, but okay. I love this idea of continuing the conversation about the tightrope walk because I feel like there's more to dig into there. And I think part of it deals with this idea of like this Western point of view of individuality and capitalism, of like, well, I should be in charge, or I should do and it's like, when we are too hard on ourselves for not singularly being able to change the entire world around us, we are separating ourselves from the idea of community. And that's just part of the embedded problem here in the Western world, thinking that the individual is paramount over everything else, and that we don't need other people. And that includes doing the good stuff and being part of the bad stuff. But we're going to be right back with Dash. We're going to talk more. I also want to, in a total left turn from this, because I have to say this out loud or I'll forget it. I'm curious what you think the crowd work version of Paranormal Investigation would be.
Ooh, I like that. And when we get back, we got show news that I do want to say.
That's right.
We're gonna cliffhanger it.
We got a couple more segments here because we'll have to do one more break later. But just a reminder, patreon.com/Ryan Singer, $3 a month, no commercials ever. We're going to be right back.
Hey friends, it's Daniel Noah here. I'm the director of SpectreVision Radio. So many of the ideas that permeate the genre stories we tell are actually based on real paranormal phenomena. The way we've represented these powerful experiences really only begin to scratch the surface, not just of the way they work, but of the way they feel. When the fine folks at Oni Press approached SpectreVision about creating a comic book series based on real paranormal phenomena, we jumped at the chance. High Strangeness is a series of 5 interconnected stories created by actual experiencers, committed to portraying the reality of paranormal experience as it truly is: strange, disorienting, beguiling, frightening, and awe-inspiring. It's got UFOs, cryptids, Men in Black, and I mean the real Men in Black, not the other Men in Black, synchronicities, interdimensional portals, a deep underground military base, and so much more. This October, Oni Press and SpectreVision are proud to present High Strangeness, a 5-part experiment in comic book storytelling, boasting an otherworldly cast of comic book talents like Christopher Cantwell, Christian Ward and Jock, Chris Condon, Ringo Award-winning artist Dave Chisholm, Cecil Castellucci, Timothy Renner of Strange Familiars, our own Jim Perry of Euphemet. Look for High Strangeness Book 1 on shelves October 8th at a local comic book shop near you. But be warned, when you look into the abyss looks back.
And we're back. So we're talking about walking the tightrope in the paranormal as people, as, you know, trying to live honestly. And, you know, I think it's, you know, this idea that I kind of compare it to this idea of recycling, where the responsibility has been put on the individual, when the corporations continue to just pump out the materials that now the individual is responsible for taking care of and making sure it doesn't turn bad, when the mass production of such a thing that is bad is, they've just absconded from all responsibility regarding that.
And even especially when you look at how it's all connected, like, you know, one of the greatest and largest polluters destroying our climate is the American military. And so, you know, now we're sort of like things on things of like the military industrial complex is evil, sort of, you know, ontologically in every way, in addition to, you know, like don't get me wrong, I recycle. It seems very important to me. I feel very bad if I smoke a cigarette, a thing that I'm trying to do less, and I will say 3 packs so far this year. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Only
for
3
year,
packs for the entire year.
Only 3 packs for the entire year. Pretty good, I think. Especially as compared to how much I used to smoke.
It feels like you're when you say that, it feels like, God, is that are you torturing yourself?
No, what I'm trying to do is I give myself, here's what I do. I've been doing a thing where when I am a very anxious person. And so sometimes I'll be like, I'm going to take a little walk, do a little anxiety walk. And sometimes I'm like, and a cigarette would definitely also assist me in shedding this anxiety. Sometimes the anxiety too great, and now I'm just walking around feeling anxious. That's its own thing. But sometimes the combination of walk and cigarette, exactly what the doctor, or well, no, the doctor would only tell me to do half of these things, but it's what the little doctor in my brain ordered, who is not licensed. So I am not torturing myself. I've just been trying to be sparingly.
Okay. Well, I mean, hey, no judgment here. I mean, I'm over here firing up a DC right now, a Diet Coke, even though I know I shouldn't be. But it's, I when we're faced with the compounding, evidence of, especially here, and I think sometimes I forget that it's not always so completely overwhelming, at least in regard to some of these specific issues like genocide and pollution and climate change, that the United States is, the number one supporter of all these things. In other parts of the world, there might be, there's obviously things happening there as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when it comes to the world around us, it's hard to think of bigger things than genocide and the destruction of our habitat to be livable. And it's pretty overwhelming, and it can be pretty heavy here. And, and I think letting the pressure valve off, like you're saying, taking a walk and having a smoke, and if that's how the pressure gets released, a person needs to be a person. A person's
absolutely.
So and no judgment there for making regulating and handling it,
and not just regulating, but also like we are this magical class of organism that gets to have dreams and goals and things that we want to do with our lives, and that's so special. And so that said, I don't know what animals dream about. I don't know. I mean, we're animals, but we know
some dogs are dreaming.
I've seen dogs think about running when they're sleeping. All that said, I struggle with this a little bit. I've struggled with this in political organizing, where I'm like, I'm still trying to make this TV show. I'm still trying to play music with people. I'm still trying to write things. I'm still trying to, I can't remember if I had this in the last time, but I've got my favorite dating app bio I've ever had, as well as my favorite just bio for anything that needs a bio, which is just that I was part of a writing project for a tabletop RPG that won an award, and so now I can officially say that I'm an award-winning paranormal investigator and an award-winning TTRPG writer. And if you can think of any other like really funny third awards, I need a third one. So that's like that's the current search, is something that's really niche enough to sort of match the first two. But I'm still pursuing my dreams, and I'm doing what I can with the resources that I have to make the world better in the ways that I know how, and the ways that I can figure out how. But I'm not abandoning the things that I want to do with my life too. And that's another tightrope, right? Where there's so many people who can say like, oh well, I'm gonna improve my platform, and when I reach a certain thing, then I'll be able to do something with it. But I feel like that's just putting it off. And so I'm trying to live in such a way where I'm like, I'm trying to do things. I'm trying to do the things that I can with the resources that I have, while also following my own dreams and following these things that I want to do with my life. And I think, it is yet another thing where it's just like the main person I got to be honest with all this is myself. I got to say, like, am I living in such a way that I'm gonna go to sleep at night and be like, I did my best today. I did my best. And that's not every day. Can I say that? But I'm trying to exist in such a way where I can say I'm doing my best. And that's that feels important to me, especially as someone who's, we're all trying to have fun and make it in whatever that means to us. Specifically, can we say that? Can we make the official announcement?
Oh, okay. This is the official, and just to put a button on what we're talking, or bow on what we're talking about.
Yes, please.
Unless we're charging our internal batteries, we have no energy for other people, or for other things, and we do have and it is such a tightrope. But but I think it's it's an important conversation, and I'm glad you brought it up, and because it's an ongoing thing, and the things that it's referencing will change over time. And it is my sincere hope that the big ones that they're referencing now, the genocide, the climate change, those we can move past those. We can conquer that part, and we can get on tightroping other things that aren't so dire.
Absolutely.
But okay, so we've got a big announcement here. I'm so excited about what this means. So lay it on us.
So the big announcement is that, and there might even be a couple of follow-ups. I'm still waiting for a couple of things to lock in terms of additional places. But, and I'll say this, I haven't posted about this. I have not posted to Instagram or TikTok or any places. So this is the first place I'm talking about it. And in fact, I will wait until this episode is out to even say that. And we can do a whole got a big announcement. Tune into the pod for the announcement, because I think that's fun.
So this is what they call an exclusive, probably.
This is an exclusive. Is that the new home for Liminal, the show? We are going to be featured on an actual streaming service. We're going to be on Tubi. Huge for me. Huge fan of Tubi. I love Tubi. I love that it's free. That kicks ass. I love that it has the entirety of the Gordon Ramsay Chef-O-Matic universe. Very important for me.
Chef-O-Matic.
That's what I Gordy Ramzo's Chef-O-Matic universe is what I call it.
Okay.
And I think that I'm alone in that. But
I was going to say, is that a term? I love that term.
It's a term that I say.
Okay. The Chef-O-Matic universe. I love it. Okay.
We're going to be on Tubi. So to start, we are told that the estimated debut time is within the first week of September. Very exciting. And it's going to be so it's the pilot that we've had, which has been feature length, it's cut into two parts. So it's a 2-part pilot, which is our Bell Witch investigation, followed up by our investigation with Ray Wise from Twin Peaks. Very exciting. I was very excited to text him like, hey, we're actually technically I texted Kaina, and Kaina told him like, hey, you're gonna be on this thing. And then the other big news is that, so we, last year we did a fundraiser to shoot another episode of Liminal. It was successful. We did go out and shoot. We actually shot a decent amount. Very exciting. And those episodes, as soon as they were being done edited, it's been a little bit in terms of just like handling all this, like the contracts and the TV stuff and figuring out what that looks like. We had to go in to the episodes and sort of render them at a different but TV stuff that is probably
tech stuff.
back end tech stuff. So we've had a lot of stuff that we've been having to work on. So we had to take the editing of the new stuff, put it on pause for a second while we handle all that. But all that's done. So the pause has the editing has been resumed. So we are going to have new stuff that will also debut on Tubi in the next couple of months, which is going to be the result of the fundraiser. Very exciting. And so this is the big update. This is the breaking news that Liminal is going to be on Tubi, which, as a longtime Tubi enthusiast, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be on Tubi. There's a chance there are some other streamers as well that this would sort of be a thing where it could be on a couple of different homes at once. So there's a couple other streamers that we're talking to currently. We'll see where that goes, but we are on Tubi, and that's starting in September. And that's the news. And I'm excited for people to see the episodes that have been out. I'm really excited for people to see the new stuff. The new stuff. We got out to North Carolina. We got really deep into just this idea of death and peace and sort of coming to terms. What does death mean? What can death mean? What can it mean to sort of like, what does it mean to sort of be haunted? I talked to you about some of my Robert Graves stuff. That's really sort of comes to a head. I'll tell you, we had this literally, I hadn't gotten a Robert Graves phone call. To catch the listener up, if you haven't heard before,
this is bonkers, by the way.
It's wild. For longer even than I've been doing paranormal stuff, I get phone calls asking for Robert Graves. I did not know who Robert Graves was until years later. I didn't know who Robert Graves was until I got back from filming the pilot, and I was talking to someone who we work with in one of the new episodes, who explained to me or pointed me towards some resources where I could find information about Robert Graves. And since that has happened, it has just ratcheted up all this, especially when I'm working on the show. So we shot in I want to say January. We shot in January and hadn't gotten a Robert Graves call at all for the year. Literally walking into the house of our shooting location for the first time, phone rings. First Robert Graves call of the year. Not only is it the first Robert Graves call, and they're spam calls. This is not like, I'm not being greeted by the ghost of an old British poet on the phone. They are spam, but they ask me for Robert Graves. But I pick up the phone because I see it and I'm like, this is the Robert Graves call. It's really funny that this is happening now. I pick up the phone and it doesn't even start with words. It starts with music, like fanfare, like da-da-da-da, like welcome back to this. And then a couple of them happen, through the whole shooting. But then the final one of the trip happens literally. We're on a beach in Wilmington, North Carolina. Fox has just done a ritual. The ritual's coming to a close. It's done. Phone rings, Robert Graves again. And so it's just perfect bookends to us shooting of like, welcome back. And then, all right, catch you next time. Like, here we go. Wow. And so it's just this amazing thing. We shot. So some of the stuff that we did in Wilmington, I think you specifically are really, really going to get a kick out of, get a kick out of what we're doing, because the thing that I really wanted to explore there, and then I think we got to explore, is what even is reality, right? This idea of what gets to be real. So many people, so I'm making this show about being trans and exploring magic. And so, you've got the entire government right now saying trans people aren't real. What gets to be real is my question. What does it mean? Is it not, a lived experience? I think that's reality. I think we exist. I think the idea of cryptids, ghosts, queerness, all these things, people will sit and tell you these things aren't real. And then that same person will tell you the free market, that's real. That's a real thing. That is a real entity that you have to navigate. And it's this question of like, what is reality? Who gets to decide what intangible, unprovable things count as real? And so that's sort of where we tried to dive into with some of the stuff we shot in Wilmington. Beautiful little town. I don't know if you've ever been Wilmington, North Carolina.
Wilmington. It is the downtown area on the weekends can feel a little overcharged with testosterone for my liking.
Sure, totally.
It's a drunk, coastal college town.
Yeah.
In that way. But first of all, huge congratulations on the news. This
Thank
is super exciting. I can't wait for more people to see this show. And you also mentioned, like the contemplation of death. And I love this idea too of trying to discover what is real. And just yesterday, I took probably an ill-advised, I took an anxiety walk yesterday that turned into kind of a jog or whatever it was to this park.
Totally.
And I'm out there kind of trying to, and it's super hot. And and then I just had this thought. I'm like, I literally had this thought. It's okay to die right now.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because I'm like pushing myself so hard or something like that.
No,
That's not what it was. It's okay. It was like almost as if a different person was telling me, hey, Ryan, it would be okay if you died right now. It will be okay.
Yes.
And I just kept saying that, or someone kept saying that to me over and over and over again, which has never happened to me. I've never had that specific experience thinking about, the end of physical form. So it's very timely that you brought that up, at least on this end. But this is really, these are some big, big ideas that are being tackled. And that's the thing I love about the really good paranormal programming or shows or ideas or projects. It's not just, hey, can we get scared? It is, it truly is searching for some of the biggest answers that we have as these creatures that are surrounded by mystery and unknowable things.
Absolutely. And to me, it's yet another tightrope too, because I think there's this desire to come away from something with an answer, with a hard answer. And I think that if we're being totally honest with ourselves, that we can't. There's like this idea, even the idea of death, right? I can have all the ideas. I can read what everyone has said about it. I haven't. I could read. I could do all sorts of looking into what the great minds in the field have said. But ultimately, I'm only going to know at one point what it's like. There's going to be one point where I know what that's like. And then after that, it's something new, I think. Or you blink out of existence. I don't think that that's going to happen based on my own take. But also, that's just my take. And and this is the thing I always say to people, if I wanted to go do science, I would go do science. Science is cool. I love animals. I get so excited. I went to a creek in Vermont yesterday, and I saw a bunch of little salamanders. I got so excited. I've never seen so many little salamanders. I was delighted by them. If I want to go do science with animals and like come up with a taxonomy, whatever, there's work to be done. I could do that. Don't want to do that. I want to go gesture vaguely at unanswerable questions and see what happens, and then get ideas about it and have ideas and take those ideas and talk about them with people like you and other people that I care about and I love sharing ideas with, because I love this idea of things that are by definition unknowable. I love that. I love it. That's what's fun about it. That's even like, I think so much about religion. Religion could be that, right? So many ideas of faith are in abstraction so beautiful. This idea of just believing something in spite of the lack of evidence, you can apply it to every other part of your life. Anytime anyone has ever said I love you, you can't know that, right? Because that's someone else's brain, and we can't read thoughts. I can't, at the very least. I can't read thoughts. But it's this trust, it's this idea that I can't tangibly prove something, but I'm choosing to take it, and I'm choosing to believe it, and I'm choosing to live my life as if it's true. I love that in the paraweird. I love that in person-to-person interactions. I love this idea of, I love the unknowable. It's fun. It's fascinating, and it's cool, and it's so idiosyncratic every time. And so I feel this sometimes when I'm making this show, right? Where I'm like, I want to come away with an answer or like a thesis or this like. And so often I do, but the answer is not, I figured it out. I figured out what the Bell Witch is. How could I? Do you know what I mean? How could I? But you figure something out. And I think that's what's cool, is like that is that supreme honesty with the self. Because anytime you're making something for content, right? Anytime you're making a show or something to be viewable or listenable or anything, obviously we're thinking about the person engaging with the media. Like, we're not just going to go out and shoot there's editing, there's all these things that take you away from the real experience, right? There's to watch someone do something will never be the same as on, or watching someone do something on a screen is never going to be the same as watching someone do something on the room. Watching someone do something in the room with them is not going to be the same as doing the thing yourself. There's all these like layers away from the actual experience. And so you want to think like, what is going to be entertaining? What is going to be fun? What is going to be a fun thing? But that's another tightrope, right? Where it's like, I want to do something that is fun and entertaining and also does not sacrifice my genuine desire for things to be like genuine and not forced and not made up. And I don't want to have a ham-fisted the moral of the story or we figured it out or whatever, because like, that's not real. That's not real life. You know what I'm saying, though?
Yeah, totally. And I cannot get, we're talking about what is real and, who gets to choose what is real. And then, thoughts become, physical forms. And the character gesture vaguely is now a living person in my brain on stage somewhere, just kind of like doing like, vaguely gesturing as their whole act. Welcome to the stage, gesture vaguely. And then there's kind of like waving at the ground or nodding indiscreetly. It's just like, to me, it's just a silly visual. We got to take one more break here, real quick break, and we're going to come back. And one of at the heart of this new show is I want this show to be, a safe place for the strange and the silly. And, finding comfort in peculiar company and woo-woo wild ones running free. I do want to come back and I want to try to figure out if we can get to the bottom of what is paranormal crowd work.
Crowd work.
And then we'll put a bow on things after that. This has been great, and we're going to be right back after one more quick break with my buddy Dash, talking liminal and all things unknowable. We'll be right back. And we have returned. And okay, so we're talking about the unknowable nature of the universe. Oh, you've got something.
I think that I have done paranormal crowd work, and I think that I have done.
Okay, so
I want to share that with you.
Okay. Let me try to set up a space for
please,
where this is for me. I'm going to try to remove all harsh judgment, and because I'm not a huge fan of, to say the least, of crowd work. I usually will leave a room if it's being done, just because it's to me it's all been done. Woo-hoo-hoo, right?
Yeah.
It is this is a safe space for crowd work, paranormal or comedy. Okay, let's.
So what I'll say is one of my earliest hosting weekends. This is not the paranormal part. This is just a comedy thing. This is just an aside. I watched a headliner, and the audience at home did not see the air quotes, but that's why I'm talking about them. I watched a headliner go to every single person in this club, air quotes there as well. Every single person at every single table and ask, so what do you do for work? Without a shred of irony, without a shred of awareness, that asking the same question to every single person in the club who didn't work at the club is the wildest possible thing to do. That was just this guy's shtick. What do you do?
It's almost admirable to commit to a bit like that. It's almost.
Mm-hmm. It was rough to be there for, I will say. Okay, so but we're away from there. All that to say, I feel very similar about crowd work, especially in the form of like, I got to get a camera rolling on my phone so I can post to TikTok my crowd work so that everyone can see my crowd work, because that's the thing that gets views, because joke writing is hard. I feel very similarly.
Yeah, we get it. And and we were talking earlier about there's no rules, right? And there's no right way to do it. But and spontaneous things happen, like a spontaneous paranormal experience. Spontaneous crowd work can happen, and that's in the moment. That's a beautiful and wonderful thing oftentimes. But when it's a very purposeful thing, it's just kind of it's kind of
exactly
boring to me.
And it also just feels so trite. It feels so trite to sort of orchestrate. I mean, I'll say similar thing. There's so many ways to do this in paranormal too, where like, to orchestrate what is going to feel like an organic event in an inorganic way, to me, is disrespectful to the art form, is disrespectful to something that should be in the moment and free and fun and organic. That's what
I think you just got to the heart of it. And it is, the easy way, the cheap way out. It's the lazy way out, if we want to use that word, which seems like a weird word to use. But what's the bigger craft here, or what is the bigger the goal here? And is the goal to, I think the goal is to connect, whether it's doing comedy or
absolutely
paranormal investigation. We're trying to connect with people or things that were people or energies. We're trying to have a energy connection of some kind. And I don't know, when the SB7 is on the table, there's a lot of crowd work happening. Hey, what's your name? Where are you from? What did you do for a living?
What I was going to say about this is, so I did a couple of months ago, I did a panel on queer ghost hunting. At a furry convention. Very fun.
I love everything about this sentence.
Yeah, really, really fun. And so I started with a presentation just about queerness as it ties to the paranormal in general, magical spaces. I talk a little bit about, even in my own culture. I don't know if I had figured this out before the last time we talked. But I figured out even in Korean culture, there's like the oldest shamanistic magical practice in Korea was the practice of Mu, and Mudong is the name of a practitioner, like a shaman of this magic practice. But it was a female role, right? So there's a very specific outfit. It's a female role, and there's a way that you have to be selected where, like, as a child, you go through like a sickness, like a spirit sickness, and then a Mudong will find you and like take you and initiate you. So it's like I couldn't practice Mudong even as a Korean person who does magic stuff, because like you have to be initiated into this thing. But in my research about it, what I found was there was a class of Mudong called the Baksu Mudong, who are people who were assigned male at birth, who would, for the purposes of being this shaman, be female. So they would put on the outfit and they would dress the part, and they would do all of the things in a very, like, this is a woman's role in this culture at the time. But people who were assigned male could also do it or be Mudong. They were just the Baksu Mudong, and same sort of practice, same, dress. And there is not enough study to tell whether or not these people lived as male for the rest of their life and just sort of were female for the practice of it. But however it is, it's still this really cool moment of like expansive gender identity, even in like ancient Korea. That's very cool for me as a Korean person who's into magic and stuff, to be like, wow, even in my own culture, there's this historical precedent for like really expansive and cool takes on gender. So I go through this whole presentation, and then we get to the fun part of, not to say the presentation is not fun, but the fun part that everyone is excited about, which is where I pull out the spirit box, I pull out the tarot cards, and I let people from the audience come up and do some of the things and like participate. So this is already where it feels a little crowd work. But specifically this one that I just did, a name gets said, full, first name, last name, government name, dead name of the person sitting right in the front row. But this is a person from the audience who does not know that person. Plugged in, Estes Method style, blindfold, headphones. They say that. Then they say another name, which is one of the chosen names of that same person. Then they say another name, which is the persona name of that person. And then they say another name, which is the name that they've been thinking about going by. So now we've got 4 names from someone who is sitting in the front row who does not know this person. And so we just start and we're just talking. And I'm just like talking to this person, like, hey, first of all, are you comfortable with this? Because like this feels very personal already. Like, we don't have to do this. We can shift gears. And they're like, yeah, let's go. And so we're having this whole conversation. It's talking about their life. It's talking about like medical stuff. And it's just this conversation between a member of the crowd and a member of the crowd, where at this point, I'm just the facilitator. I'm not even doing, you know what I mean? Like, I'm kind of like, I'm bearing witness. And so what's really wild about it, we have this whole thing and everyone clears out, and that person who was getting named and talked to comes to me and they're like, yeah, I didn't want to get the spotlight on me, but like, I do magic stuff and I feel like I know what was talking to me through that. And also like, I'm really interested in the show, and like let's stay in touch about all the stuff. So it became this like very sweet, cool, organic conversation with someone who like is interested in working together in some way. Very cool. But I was like, that feels like paranormal crowd work to me,
Yeah.
in that I'm not supplying the content even for this interaction. This is just sort of like this is just sort of happening.
Yeah, that's wild. And it just started raining really hard. I was like, wait, what is this
Wow.
weird noise?
Dang.
I don't think I'm not sure if you can hear it or not, but I want to just backtrack a little bit because I think I learned
Yeah.
something brand new. You said
Okay.
the term fursona.
Yes.
Okay. So I think people listening, I've never heard that before.
Okay.
And that's
So
a
your
name
fursona.
that, okay.
Yeah. Your fursona is like your avatar in the furry space. So my fursona is a purple pit bull that I call Dang. That's the name of it. Usually it's not your name, can be your name, can be whatever animal you sort of vibe with, whatever animal feels right, whatever animal you like. There's no wrong answer, much like, again, comedy and magic. There's no wrong way to do it. Either it's an animal that people have associated you with or just an animal that you like. You pick your animal, it's anthropomorphic. And it's just sort of like a fun cartoon version that is either like this is a sort of a one-to-one, this is me in the sort of like designing like a digital avatar to play a game, right? You design your avatar. So in the furry space, you've got your persona, and that's sort of like your representation in that. And, you'll find that a lot of people, especially trans people who have not figured their identity out entirely yet or who are still working on it, will be like, oh, well, it lets me sort of explore some presentation things. It lets me sort of explore ways that I might want to look or wish that I looked like, or pronouns or gender expression or other things through a sort of a fantastical creature. Or it can just be like, this is fun. I like to imagine myself as a dog having adventures with my friend who imagines themselves as a cat. And, we draw fun art. You can pay other artists. Like furries will get what's called a reference sheet, and they either draw it themselves or they pay someone else to do it. And it's sort of like the character in a still pose, maybe with some props. And like, this is the color palette that I like. And these are some of the ways that the hair can go. And then, you'll pay an artist to, draw me a torso up like in this pose, or draw me just like a headshot, or draw whatever. So it's it's just sort of like having a fun avatar in the furry space.
Very cool. Very cool. The idea of exploration is at the heart of so much of what drives, people like you and me, or creatures like us, whatever we are. And this idea that exploration has to be, my phone is ringing from a number that I don't recognize. And part of me is like, okay. if I answer this, let me answer it and see if they ask for Robert Graves. It's from Orlando, Florida.
Okay.
I'm going to try to put it on speaker. Let's see.
All right.
Hello. Hello? They hung up. I don't think they were expecting me to answer. That is, I can't remember the last time I answered a number that I didn't recognize. That's like
I answer them all the time.
I had so much anxiety just now. But yeah, so at the heart of this life, this chance that we get to be here is, this idea of exploring and looking and I don't know if if the answers, like you said, are ever going to be, super clear. And I think that really doesn't matter all that much.
Yeah.
And we're here for a good time. And that doesn't mean that we're shut off to, the atrocities or the horrible things that are happening in the world. And, in fact, it means that we have to be even more aware of them. Yeah. And to genuinely be able to have a good time doing anything or being with anyone, I believe requires total awareness as opposed to ignorance or shutting oneself away.
And I think I think we're here for a good time for ourselves. And I think we're here to try to make it a good time for as many people as we can on top of that. I think the good time is expansive. And I think that's part of being aware of the bad things are happening. And so how can we what can we do to make everything a better time for everybody? And I think that's so much of how I at least am trying to exist, because I love the idea of a good time. I love the idea of a good time. I love the idea, thinking about all the Star Trek utopias that could be, all the ways that people could just relax and make art and live, and all the things. And so, do we see something like that in my lifetime? Never say never, but I can do my best to make it a good time for as many people as I can, and myself. And I think that's what we all got to do.
Yeah, I love that. And let's remind everybody or tell them for the first time, if they're just now hearing about it all, where they can find all things Liminal and, all things Dash.
So I am very easy to find across social media. I am just my name, at Dash Kwiatkowski. The spelling of that, I'm sure, will be in the description of this episode. So I won't have to do the thing that I always do on the phone, where I spell the first half of the last name and then I say and then. And the reason I say and then is because if I just say KWIATKOW, the person will be like, oh, sorry, and then they erase the first part, because people are like, how many K's could be in your last name? Probably just the one. And so they erase it and they start with the second. So I say KWIAT and then, wow, the ways you learn to navigate the world. But Dash Kwiatkowski on Blue Sky, on Instagram, on Twitter, although I am a much more infrequent poster there now. And then at Liminal TV on Blue Sky and Instagram for the show. Liminal can currently be viewed on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@teamliminal. And again, very soon, very shortly, can also be viewed on Tubi. On Tubi, the streaming platform, where we are now. And I don't know if I can legally refer to myself as a colleague or peer of Chef Gordy Ramzo, of Mr. Beef Wellington himself, Gordy Ramzo and his Chef-O-Matic universe. But I will be calling myself a colleague of the man, because we are both on Tubi. And I think that that's fair. And,
More
Gordy,
than fair.
if you're listening, please feel free to tell me to stop doing it. But that is the only thing that will get me to stop doing it, is a direct request from the chef man himself. Yeah.
Awesome. And Gordo, we know you're listening. So send in your idea of what you think the equivalent to chef crowd work would be.
Yes,
we'd be super interested to, is that a Burger King have it your way, or is it the person who asks about every menu item, or but from a chef's perspective, I don't know. I think it would be a nightmare doing crowd work as a chef, as opposed to just serving up the dishes that you've already prepared in advance.
And Gordy, while we got you here for the moment, let me and Ryan come do a guest judge on the Master Chef. I'll do Junior. I'll do Master Chef Junior. We could do a whole thing where we can make like a spooky food, and then we could do some ghosty stuff. We could do some ghosty stuff, or like a UFO food. I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll figure it out.
Scariest food, funniest food.
Scariest food, funniest food,
funniest food. Gordy, while we still have you here, I think it would be perfect to have us in Hell's Kitchen, actually, for a Halloween episode. So Gordy,
absolutely,
make a note about that. Reach out to us about Hell's Kitchen. We've got some ideas we've already been workshopping for you. Yeah. That we think, upside down bunt cake, it's like upside down, what would be like, what is it? The seven layer cake, the 7 layers of Dante's hell cake.
Dante's seven layer cake. Uh-huh. Yeah. And I tell you what, Gordy, if you hate it, you pick the cake up, you throw it away, because I know I've watched a lot of the shows. I know how much you love throwing food. I know you'll want to go outside first to do it, but I know that's why you shoot episodes outside, is so you can throw the food. I know you love to throw the food.
And Gordy, don't worry, we're gonna put targets out there too. So
yes,
we're gonna have targets outside for thrown food, and depending on which target you hit, there will be donations to charitable foundations that are actively, trying to help the unhoused or fight the industrial military complex.
Absolutely,
things like that. We know you're into that, Gordy, so we're going to help facilitate that for you.
Got a lot of ideas, and just gotta make the connection. We're here.
So thanks, Gordy. Thanks for being on the show, Gordy.
Thank you, Gordo.
We know your camera and your mic wasn't working, but we know you're here.
We
appreciate that. Dash, this has been great, as always. Thanks for being the first guest on Late Night on the Astral Plane. This has been a fantastic voyage.
Thank you so much for having me. It is truly always a delight and a pleasure to talk to you. Like I said before, recorded or unrecorded, love talking to you about the many wacky and weird things, the many mundane things, just life. Love talking to you about life. Just so very, very happy to know you, very happy to be your friend, and as always, very happy to come on the show.
Well, likewise, and many more in this unknowable future, indeed.